joined by Utah Radio Color Analyst, former Utah Utes great, NFL quarterback, and a friend of the show, and Scott Mitchell with Craig and Paul, David Smoke, 365 Sports. Great to see you, my man.
Yes, always a pleasure. Thank you.
You too. Am I wrong to feel like Cam Rising has had some great moments, but it almost looks like an old fighter who won't retire? And God bless him. He's courageous and all that, but is this, do you think, the end of him at Utah in his college career?
Oh man, that's a tough question. But Friday night watching him play was painful. And what's so hard is you've seen so many great games from Cam. I mean, 2 conference championships, 2 Rose Bowls. When Cam came in and started playing for Utah, it changed the whole program. I mean, I swear, single-handedly just changed the whole dynamic, the whole belief, the whole thing just changed when he started playing. And at the beginning of this season, I think everybody was very optimistic. The first game and a half before he got injured in the Baylor game, he looked great. And this team's got a lot of talent on both sides of the football. So I think everybody was really optimistic. And for me, watching him in the game, I was like, okay, am I seeing rust or am I seeing an inability to actually play? And as the game went on, it became clear, very clear. The game didn't go on very long before it became very clear that he just was inept. He just couldn't play. And it was a sad thing to see, because Utah fans are very hopeful about a shot to win the conference, to go to the college football playoffs. And a lot of it hinged on Cam Rising playing well and being healthy.
So Isaac Wilson is the guy now, Scott, and he'll get the first team reps, which he's gotten already at points during the season. How much better do you think that will make him in the short term, that now he's not looking over his shoulder anymore?
Well, I think that the decision and knowing that I'm the guy now, I think helps everyone. I think it helps Isaac. I think it helps all the guys around him, the coaches. There's no hope. There's no expectation that Cam Rising's going to come back. You're not a placeholder. You're not here just until the regular guy gets here. And I think that kind of changes things a little bit for Isaac, in that, okay, it's my shot here. And Isaac's played fairly well this year. They've had some challenges in the red zone, and he's made some freshman mistakes, but man, he's shown a lot of promise. And I think, now getting to kind of go back in the game, he got to sit down for a week or so and kind of look and assess and see where he was. I think he'll be more confident. I also think the players around Isaac will actually kind of come to his aid, so to speak. Not everyone knows it's Isaac Wilson moving forward, and I just think it really helps Isaac. I think it helps the whole team. I think people were getting so much fatigue from, is Cam coming back? When's he coming back? I mean, he's now out this year, and everybody's still talking about he could come back for an 8th year of college football, and it's like, enough already. And so I think people are ready to kind of move forward, and I think it's a good break and a good fresh start for the program.
Now, I know the Cam story kind of overtook not only the last couple of days, but certainly that Arizona State game as well, as we're all watching him, like you said, just out there struggling the way that he did. Obviously, Cam Scadaboo was really good. I mean, surprise there, but just kind of what were your thoughts in general on that Arizona State loss, and what from that does transfer moving forward, Rising notwithstanding?
It was a game of big plays in the run game for Arizona State, and Cam Scadaboo. I watched him a year ago, but this dude is tough. He's just relentless, and he's so good. He has great feet, and he's got such awareness at the line of scrimmage, finding the holes, and he really exploited the Utah defense when they kind of made some mistakes in their gap protection. And Utah's normally really good against the runs. Held him to 31 yards in Salt Lake last year, but boy, he was just so impressive to me. And you got Kenny Dillingham. He's a guy that's he's an alumni, and I think that matters. You think of Jonathan Smith when he was at Oregon State, and everyone said Oregon State's an automatic win on your schedule, and all of a sudden he was able to bring guys in. The NIL, the transfer portal, really can turn a program around in a quick hurry here. So they were fired up, and that's what Utah's seen this year. Everybody gives you their best shot, right? You're going to get, because everyone, it's kind of like, well, Utah was the team to win the conference, and so you're seeing everyone's best shot. And And Kenny Dillingham wants to make a statement. His program wants to make a statement. So I'm not surprised by the effort from what happened. And, there's not a lot. Well, there is a lot. There was Mekhi Bernard played great. The offensive line actually blocked very well in both the pass and the run. You've got a secondary that's playing pretty good. They got a lot of young, really athletic players, and they've had some pretty significant injuries on the defense. Hopefully you get some of those guys back, but there's still a lot of depth on this team, a lot of talent on this team. And the reality is Utah's been in this situation before. The first Pac-12 championship that Utah went to, they went 0-2 at the beginning of conference play. The Big 12 now is really a crazy conference. I love it. I love that so many people are still in it. They believe they can win, and that just makes it super, super competitive. And you have to play it all the way through to the end. You don't know what crazy things can happen. I don't know all the tiebreakers that happen at the end of the year, but I'm sure we're going to get some mathematician from MIT to explain, okay, here's this team is in and this team is out, and it's because of, this I'm not even going to pronounce it, but just some math equation. And so I love it. And that's what I've loved about the Big 12 so far this year, is that people care about football and they want to watch it, and they're invested in it.
Scott, back in 2014, the Big 12 at their media days announced one true champion. In other words, one team will win it all. And that was the year that TCU and Baylor ended up like in the top 5, and then they couldn't separate who should be in the 4-team playoff. Ohio State slipped in and then won the whole national title. So don't count on a tiebreaker, even though they have like 10 or 12 of them there. They'll screw that up in some particular way. But I love what you said. Now, Utah fans, how are they taking this? Because they were very vocal about running the Big 12. A lot of fan bases do that. But Utah initially, as you know, the fan base kind of looked down at joining the Big 12.
Yeah, look, the Utah fan base is struggling right now. It's painful, and this is super painful. And just because Cam Rising, it's almost like you put all your eggs into Cam Rising, and rightfully so, and based off past performance. So there was a lot of expectation, and I think there's a lot of excitement too about the expanded college football playoffs. There was this perception that you're going to be in every game. You're going to have a chance to win every game. You're not going up against USC, and you're not going up against Oregon and Washington. You're going up against teams that are fairly similar in their talent levels and their abilities and the type of teams they are. And so I think everyone feels that way, though, in the Big 12, and I certainly know Utah did. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? Or let's just say candid. I'm always honest, but I'm going to be candid with you. I think the thing that's hardest for Utah fans right now is that BYU is doing so well. It's like one thing to like, okay, we're struggling, but your little brother down south is like really doing well, and everybody's talking about him, and nobody's talking about you, and that makes it 1,000 times worse than it probably is.
That's a great point.
But is it strange to you that Utah fans were so adamant about being a Pac-12 team, seeing as they weren't in that conference all that long?
Well, I think what was hard about the Pac-12 is that Utah had worked its way up through the conference. Mm-hmm. They'd had some lean years. I mean, Kyle Whittingham, there was a lot of discussion. Is he the right coach for this, and should he be fired? And it was tough there for 3 or 4 years, kind of early on, and so Utah kind of hit its stride in the conference. And I think they've been to 4 of the last 5 Pac-12 championship games. I mean, it's been to 2 Rose Bowls, and you feel like, okay, we've really hit something here. There was so much tradition in the Pac-12. It was a great conference to be a part of, and you kind of feel like, okay, we finally arrived. I mean, really, in the beginning of Utah's existence in the Pac-12, it was like, we're just honored and privileged that we get to play USC. And we're honored, it wasn't like, okay, you're a part of us. It's like you're here because this just has to be this way, and we'll reluctantly take you. That's kind of the sense that you got from people. And so to finally feel like, okay, we've gotten here, and then to have the conference just kind of disintegrate was a tough blow. I've said all along, it's like, there's going to be conference realignment, and if you're not relevant, in the Big 12, you're going to have a hard time being relevant in college football moving forward. So there was a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation on Utah when it went to the Big 12. And whether they rub people wrong or I don't think Utah fans are like, oh, it's terrible to be in the Big 12. I think a lot of them are like, we're glad we're somewhere that's a good football conference, and it's really about what you do moving forward. That's really the most important thing, at least to me.
Scott, Coach Whittingham has made it clear that he won't be doing this much longer. He's had a fabulous career. It's not been an easy year. No one grinds more than he does. And you mentioned Utah had 0-2 start and won the Pac-12 the first time. How, in your opinion, is he taking this as even more of something of a challenge, or what?
I know it's super hard on him, and it's so hard because, he's damned if he does and he damned if he doesn't. Should we play the young guy? Should we wait for our older guy who's really been a great part? So I know the whole issue with Cam's injuries has just been a grind on everyone. And Coach Whittingham is a tough-minded individual, and he's been that way in the program. And he's always been a coach that's like I love to be the underdog. I love that you count us out. I think he's more comfortable in that situation than kind of being the one that everyone thinks should win the conference. And so he's not uncomfortable in this situation right now. And he's been so good about it in the past when they've had these challenges, both on and off the field. A couple of players tragically passed away a couple of years ago, and they've done just a tremendous job of turning that into such a great positive. And the program struggled, but it's found its way through those tough times. And I think people, if they're really smart, would look at what Kyle Whittingham has done at Utah, because it's brilliant. And he gets more out of less than I think any coach in the country. He's great at culture, and he's great at people buying into the program, and he's great at developing players. And he has a staff that, has been intact for quite some time, and they understand where he is. So I don't think this is, a place where he goes, I'm not comfortable with this, or I'm not disappointed, because I'm telling you, there's not a tougher individual in the world than Kyle Whittingham. In fact, if I was going into a fight, he'd be the first person that I'd want with me, because he would just not give up, and he would not back down. And that's just who he is. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see him that this is his last year. It would not surprise me at all. He's very clear. He's been very adamant about, he's not going to do this forever. I know more than anything, he really wanted to get to the college football playoffs and see what happened there. And I really he felt this was the year to do it. Whether he thinks the team has the potential of a year from now, I don't know. But I know that's something that was really important to him before he retired.
You had a chance coming out of college when you entered the NFL with Miami first, and then, of course, Detroit, then Baltimore, Cincinnati, to kind of sit and watch the game. A lot of times there were still quarterbacks that played right away, and some even before you. How much does that help, in your opinion, to just marinate on the sideline? We've seen C.J. Stroud jump right into it, and others too. What are your thoughts about that now in pro football?
Oh, man, the game's certainly different, and it's certainly a lot easier for quarterbacks to do well. And part of it, I think, is how well they're trained technically, and just their understanding of the game. And a lot of what's happening in pro football is very similar to a lot of what these guys are seeing in college football. I can't hit quarterbacks anymore. It's a little bit different deal. And to see some of these players do well, I mean, I was always impressed with C.J. Stroud. Utah played Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and I was watching throw. I go, that's an NFL throw right there. That's an NFL throw right there. Of course, he had NFL receivers he was throwing to, but it was just super impressive. Now, from my from my experience, you tell me. I sat between Don Shula and Dan Marino for 4 years in every single meeting every day. And let me tell you, it was an unbelievable experience. And then to go to practice, and then to watch how both of them handled games and game situations. I mean, it was a master class in understanding and learning how to play the quarterback position. And when I came in to finally play, I played very well, and it was because of all of that experience and knowledge that I got, and I think it was invaluable. I don't know if you all remember Jeff George, who was the number one pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so we were the same draft, and I interviewed Jeff a few years ago, and I just said, I was so envious of you because you were like the first pick in the draft, and I went in the 4th round. And he goes, I was so envious of you. He says, I didn't have anybody around to really tell me and help me and guide me. And here you were there with Marino and Shula. He says the only guy that helped me was Eric Dickerson, and he didn't teach me how to throw the ball, but he was a great teammate and really supportive. And he said, I would have given anything to have had that support. And so much of your success in the NFL really is landing in the right situation for your abilities, and even the timing of where you are from a maturity standpoint. You see Sam Darnold having success in Minnesota now, and he was seeing ghosts when he was with the Jets in New York. And a lot of it is growing up. I mean, you're not very old when you get in the NFL, or a lot of these guys, they get on really good teams. I know for Marino, he's like, well, one of the greatest blessings in my life was being drafted late in the 1st round because I was on a great team. So I think a lot of guys can play in the NFL. It's just hitting the right place at the right time.
I'm curious about this. There was the penalty last night. I've heard it a couple times, but since we had you on today, there was a roughing the passer on Aaron Rodgers, which was using the body weight, tackling the quarterback.
Right.
And I thought there are now eras of quarterbacks that heard that and been like, "Are you kidding me? That's a penalty." I got hit like. You probably get hit by Gilbert Brown and guys like that. Like, I wish the body weight penalty was something then.
Look, if I had Gilbert Brown land on top of me, I would be here right now. That was the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. And if I couldn't get away from him, then I need to retire.
He was about 350, wasn't he? Or that's what they listed him at?
Look, if a guy's 350, everybody's lying. Okay, the guy's over 400 pounds. And in fact, we played Green Bay in Detroit, and he actually came through the backfield and tripped and fell, and he hit the ground, and he just bounced off the ground. And I swear the Silverdome just shook when that happened. But look, I knew, and I have playbooks, and I have playbooks from that were shown to me from people like Tony Dungy, who was the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. And the top priority for a defense is to take out the other team's quarterback. I mean, that's how it was. You knew going into games that you had to protect yourself, and you don't think about it. You don't sit there and because you can't play if that's the case. And so you really just you just have to have eyes in the back of your head and really be careful in those situations. Because look, the body slam thing will do numbers on your shoulders, and a lot of shoulder separations happen from those plays. A lot of guys will just, if they get close to you and you throw the ball, they magically fall on the ground and they roll into your legs. I mean, there's all kinds of things that guys used to do, and everyone in the NFL knew it, knows it, and it was just kind of the way it was then. But they've realized that, Utah right now is going through what the NFL does not want to have happen. They don't want the star quarterbacks out of games. It kills the ratings. Nobody wants to see it. Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets is so much better than anyone else they put in there. So they want to make sure that guy's in there. He's ratings, he's interesting, and he makes people want to watch. The reality for me, that's what I want to watch. I want to watch great quarterback play in the NFL. So I don't want these guys to get hurt, and I want to see them play, and because there's so many really good players in the NFL today. It's great to watch.
Scott, great stuff, man. Glad we got you on. Good luck with Wilson as he moves on, Utah as they move on to try to right the ship, and good luck to Cam Rising, too. Thanks for your knowledge and insight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to do it anytime.
And that's Scott Mitchell, voice, color analyst at Utah Radio. Played in the NFL. Remember, big, tall lefty, played with the Dolphins, as he mentioned, and got a chance to sit around with Dan Marino, and then was pretty good. Had a nice run with Detroit as well in the early to mid-1990s, and now a former Utah great, too.